Okay, hi guys, welcome back. I have put everything in my haul inside this little basket. I have a few more things just like on the floor here, but I like the idea of putting it in this basket as if it's like these items that I foraged in the woods. Like these are my nuts and my berries that I wanted to show you guys. If you don't know, if you're new here, my name is Romney. I just spent an entire month in Paris. It was fabulous and amazing. I made 3 vlogs. If you guys want to check them out, they are on my channel. I had a wonderful time. Paris is so beautiful and I'm so lucky to have gotten to experience it for an entire month. Like, I am so blessed. And of course I did some vintage shopping, some book shopping, some trinket hunting while I was there, and I wanted to just do a video where I show you guys everything and also like tell you some of my favorite like flea markets and things like that that I went to while I was there. So this is a haul. It's also like a little bit of a recap from my trip, my recommendations and things of that nature. First, I'll show you a few of the things that I got at the very first vintage market that I went to. I'll pop up the name here on the screen because I cannot pronounce it so well, but this is Saint-Ouen. It's basically like a humongous antique mall and then also like a flea market outside of it. It's huge. It is like a labyrinth of a place. This is somewhere where you're gonna spend all day. I found this bag and I love this bag so much. This is probably the most special, my most favorite thing that I purchased in Paris. Something I was thinking about as I went to Paris was like, if I'm gonna splurge on like one item, it would be a bag, because I love handbags. You guys know I love doing like what's in my bags and flat lays and things like that. And with a handbag, it's so special and it's worth spending the money on because I'm going to wear this like every single day for the next year. And it's just such a nice vintage piece. I spent I think like $220 on this. Definitely the most expensive thing that I bought on my trip, but this is also a Parisian brand, so that makes it even more special that I bought it in Paris. The brand is Lamar. The size is perfect. I can fit everything I need, especially while traveling. This is like the ultimate travel bag because I can fit my journal, I can fit my book, and I can fit like at least 2 cameras in here as well. Here on the zipper there is like a little tracing of a unicorn because that is the symbol of the brand, which is a symbol for femininity and grace, and I just love it. I love it so much. I just think it's like the most perfect bag for me ever, and I'm so happy that I found it. The next thing I got I also found at the same flea market over there. This is a silk scarf. This is actually for my mom. This is a little souvenir I brought home for her, but I just think it's so sweet. I think it's the sweetest little scarf. It has birds all over it. My mother like loves birds. That's like her spirit animal. So when I saw it, it just like immediately thought of her and got it. I just think it's very beautiful. I feel like a silk scarf is like the perfect little souvenir to bring home from Paris. Another thing that I bought at this vintage market was a bunch of vintage postcards and photographs. This is something that I recently started collecting. Essentially, they are just like random photographs of people and random postcards that people were sending to each other with little notes and letters and addresses on it. The letters and postcards people were writing to each other back then were all just so poetic and beautiful. People had just like a way with words back then that I feel like people don't have nowadays. I mean, people do, like some select people, but it seemed like back then like everyone was just like a poet by nature. They're in French, so I can't really read them, but I did have a friend translate them for me. And then I got these 2 little photographs of people. This one is just a couple just like sitting in a park, and then this one is my absolute favorite. She's just like this beautiful lady like just sitting on a swing. The swing reminds me of Renoir's swing that he painted, so I think that's kind of what captured me about it, and I love her. I love her so much. This is a great souvenir to buy if you're in Paris as well because they're very cheap. So if you don't want to spend a ton of money on souvenirs and you don't want it to take too much space in your suitcase, I think in total I only paid like €3 for all of these. So another vintage market that I went to. This is the one, if you guys watched, yes, it was in my last Paris vlog. I went with 2 other creators to this vintage market. I'm so glad I ended up like making friends when I was there because this is like one of those things that I wouldn't have known about if someone hadn't told me about it, you know? So this is Village St. Paul in the 4th district on Sunday morning. And oh my goodness, this was the most fabulous flea market I have ever seen. They had everything. They had clothing, they had books, they had little trinkets. I loved looking at all of the assortment of trinkets that they had out. That was like my favorite part. I only got one thing at this market, but I truly just love it so much, is this dress. Maybe it looks strange as I'm holding it up, but it's very cute on, I promise. I think the fabric is so pretty. I love the material. It just would be like such a cute little like spring summer moment. This was at a table and she just had like a ton of clothes on the table and everything was like $3 or $4, I think. It has like a little flare sleeve as well. It's a little bit bohemian and I love the idea of wearing it and being able to say, I bought this at a flea market in Paris. Like, that's just so fabulous to me. This one I didn't get in that area, but I got it on the same day because we went into a few other like vintage shops afterwards. This was from Come On Eileen, which is a fabulous vintage store in Paris and pretty good prices as well. And if you go there, there's also like a few other like vintage stores like right around there as well. So I think that's a good place to go. It's just a very basic striped top and you're probably like, Romney, you already have a striped top just like this. Why did you buy another one? And this is very different from the other striped top that I have. It's a little bit of a different material. It's a thinner stripe. It has this like pretty neckline and sleeve. I forget how you call this. I love a cliche Parisian striped top as well with just like a pair of jeans and a trench coat. Like, I think it's just such a classic good look. Okay, one more clothing piece that I bought is this scarf. So if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen me wear this in pics, but I bought this in Montmartre at a vintage shop. I'm not sure what it was called. Montmartre is a wonderful artsy village, so it's a great place to do some shopping. I just love this scarf. It's so colorful, it's so fun, and I was wearing this like red coat the entire time I was there. You might think that this scarf would clash with a red coat, and honestly it probably did, but I feel like it was working for me. Like, I don't know, it just made sense in my head. I bought these sunglasses at a Monoprix, so not vintage but still fun. It's because I was looking for sunglasses at like a vintage shop, but they were all like $50 to $100, and I'm not one to spend that much money on sunglasses because I always break them. But I did just want like a cute pair of sunglasses from Paris. I feel like Monoprix, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Monoprix is like the French equivalent to like a Target. These glasses make me want to tie a little silk scarf over my head and tie it right here and just have like a scarf and the sunglasses look. For this next one, I have to bust out my diary because most of these I was pasting in my diary, which is postcards. I did buy postcards and send them to some of my friends and family, but I also just like bought postcards to paste inside of my diary. Pretty much all of the museums I went to, I ended up buying a postcard as well. I'll just show you all of them, I guess. And this will also be like my little museum recommendations as well. I went to Museum Rodin and I bought this little like strip of pictures as well as a postcard. The Rodin Museum is amazing. I love Rodin sculptures. I think they're so unique. Of course, I had to buy a postcard of the Mona Lisa when I went to the Louvre. And then I have a little postcard of Cosette from Les Miserables from the Victor Hugo Museum, which is a tour of his home. Definitely recommend that if you are a Les Mis fan or if you like Victor Hugo. It's a free museum, so definitely check that out. This is a postcard from the Montmartre Museum. Here's just like my other like little diary pages. I'm really just like saving all of my receipts and my tickets to everything so that I can paste them in my diary. This was from the Saint-Ouen Museum. This is a portrait of Saint Laurent by Andy Warhol. This is a postcard that I purchased at the Eugene Delacroix Museum. Another one of my diary pages, just a bunch of like junk journaling, random bookmarks and souvenirs and little napkins that I cut out. Another one of my journal pages. I think this one was like my favorite one that I did. I think it looks so adorable. Also, I have a ton of Polaroids from my trip, which to me kind of act like little souvenirs. If you are a person that travels a lot, I totally recommend investing in like a Polaroid camera or a film camera that you can get like physical printouts of your pictures. I think it's just so meaningful and special to have like hard copies of your pictures as you're traveling, because of course you can take pictures on your phone, but it's not the same as like having hard copies and being able to put them in a box or an envelope and title it Paris, February 2025. Like, that's just so much more romantic than just like having them all on my phone. Now I have my little Polaroids in Paris collection. This is the cutest little, how we say, trinket that I've ever owned. I mean, I just love it so much. I love it so much. Okay, so it's a little trinket box. Is there a name for these? I forget. But it's basically a little box. You press this button, it opens up into a little mirror with a compartment here. So on my last day in Paris, I went to the Opera Garnier which was so beautiful. If you're in Paris, I think the opera is like a must-see place. But this was a little souvenir that I bought. You know what I love? When you go into a museum or any kind of tour like that, and then at the end there's a museum gift shop. Like, that is like the most exciting thing ever. It feels like a little present at the end. I think this might be like one of my favorite things that I own ever, actually. Not to be dramatic. So yeah, I just love this so much. So getting into some of the books that I bought when I was in Paris. Not to be like the most basic American book girl visiting Paris, but Shakespeare & Company was probably not only my favorite bookstore that I went to, but probably like one of my favorite places that I went to in general. And it just has such a rich literary history on top of that. And definitely, if you're in Paris, that's like a must-see place. There is a line to get inside, but it goes by fast. I was already kind of showing you guys like the books I was buying while I was in Paris during my vlogs, but at this point I've already read all of the books that I bought there, so I can kind of give you my little recap. But the first one was The Cost of Living by Deborah Levy. I don't have the copy with me because I lent it to my mom to read. This is the second book in her 3-part memoir series, and it kind of chronicles this time in her life after she gets divorced. She writes with so much clarity and so much insight on what it is to be a woman and finding freedom through her writing and through her work. Everything she says is just like exactly what I need to hear at any given point in time. And I really like reading her work while I'm traveling because a lot of her sentiments also go along with finding yourself through exploring the world in these kinds of ways. Another book that I bought was Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector, and I also don't have the physical copy with me because I lent it to my brother to read. So I'm basically like the public library of my family at the moment. But when you read it, it flows through you like wine through water, and it changes the color of your mind. This is like a Emily Bronte quote, but Agua Viva, it literally means like the flow of water. That's how it feels when you read it, because it just, like, you're reading it and it goes like directly from the words like into your heart. Her writing style is so unique and authentic, and just her voice, it's like her very own. And out of all the authors that I've been reading lately, she is the one that I want to get into more the most. As I was preparing for my trip, I was reading people like Albert Camus and Émile Zola, so I was thinking like I really want to try to prioritize more French literature as I'm there. Another bookstore I went to was Galgadani, I think. Galganani, I think is how you say it. I don't really know how to say it. It is also a bookstore that has like primarily an English selection. I bought 3 books when I was there. The first one is Memoirs of a Dutiful Daughter by Simone de Beauvoir. This is also a French author that I really wanted to get into while I was in Paris. I just finished this one. I started reading it as soon as I got home. This basically accounts her life from her early years as a child all the way up until her years at Sorbonne, just growing up and becoming a woman and a writer at the same time. Again, she recounts her experience growing up with such clarity. I'm amazed in which the way she remembers these intimate details from her childhood. I feel like with most of the books I bought, I was really picking them out intuitively, like sort of thinking of like, what are the messages that I need to hear right now in my life? And so much of the things that she's talking about in this book I resonated with so much, just as she's like finding herself and looking for like the meaning of life, her navigating her friendships and her romantic relationships, just like a lot of the things she was saying I was relating to so much, and I would really like to read more of her work now. Another one that I bought that I already finished as well is A Spy in the House of Love by Anais Nin. This is my first of Anais Nin and the first of many because I love the way she writes. She sort of explores ideas of erotic femininity, which is just so captivating. This one is about a character called Sabina, who is blazing through 1950s New York, and she's sort of daring to enjoy the sexual freedoms that men do, while also having the emotional experience that a woman would have. And I look forward to reading more of her work. I really want to read her diaries, because I know those are very popular as well. And this is my current read. This is The Dream by Émile Zola. Émile Zola is a French author as well. I had read another one of his books in preparation for this trip, which was Nana. So far, I'm liking The Dream a little bit more. I feel like it's just like like a little bit more in my alley, but it's about this orphan girl who is adopted by a couple, and she is intensely passionate and she sort of like lives in her daydreams. And well, I just started it, so I don't have that much to say about it yet, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I bought this at Shakespeare & Company because I went a second time at the end of my trip. This is a very sentimental thing for me. This is the book Madeline. This was my favorite story as a child. We have the Madeline series in my home, but they're like thin paper copies and they are falling apart, and we lost the original one. So I went ahead and got this one because it's a nice hard copy. It was me and my sister's favorite growing up, and now I read them to my little sister now, so it's very special. Like the illustrations are just so unique and so iconic, and it just felt like an obligatory thing for me to get while I was in Paris. And one of the last books I got is a art book of Suzanne Valdon, who I really got into while I was in Paris because I went to the Montmartre Museum and it had all of her work on display, and I was just instantly enamored by her and her story. She was a muse, a model turned artist, and she started modeling for artists in Montmartre around 1880 to 1893. She was painted and drawn by people like Renoir and other famous artists in that area at that time. And while she was there, Degas ended up teaching her how to draw and paint. And she ended up practicing and she had a real talent for it. So she became one of the artists, and her career really sprang off in Paris in the 1920s. What's so interesting about her work is it is mostly nude portraits, but she has this very like realistic and raw way of portraying women in her work, which I think really stands out from her male counterparts at the time and just like makes her work just a little bit more unique. And I love her story. I love the muse turned artist archetype. I think it's just so cool. I was happy to sort of go down that rabbit hole. Okay guys, that is everything that I bought in Paris, and I will cherish these things for the rest of my life, and hopefully I'll be wearing like my scarf or my dress out and people will say, oh, I love your dress, and I'll be able to say thank you, I bought it at a vintage market in Paris. This is like officially the end to my Paris series. Check out the other videos in my series if you have not seen them already. I will link those down below. Thank you so much for being here. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next one. Bye! In an old house in Paris that was covered with vines lived 12 little girls in 2 straight lines. They left the house at 9:30 in 2 straight lines. In rain or shine, the smallest one was Madeline. I love this book.